should India join NATO? In principle, we are against the alliances, and India is situated in such a geography where India cannot afford to join any of the alliance. We are in the neighborhood of China, and this is going to be unnecessarily impacting further India-China relations, and we are not going to get anything out of it, because NATO, and another thing is NATO really expanding? I don't think so. Fine. So allowing any military pact like NATO means giving your strategic autonomy, and we have very close relations with Russia also, and strong strategic interest with Russia. So there is no logic, plus there is no requirement, and NATO belongs to the idea of Cold War when world was bipolar, and today we live in a multipolar world, and strategic partnerships is a better approach than any alliances.
And then how will we manage without USA in the case of a two-front war?
We will manage on the basis of our armed forces, on the basis of our capabilities in case of two-front war. And another thing is, since we have strategic partnerships with different countries, obviously these strategic partnerships will help us in multiple level. For example, in developing our information, in getting our reconnaissance base better in terms of access to weapons, but ultimately it is your country, you have to defend it, and this is what, and we have our own, like consistently we are building our own deterrence. So I also do not see a possibility of two-front war actually.
Ma'am, which country should be India's strategic partners and why?
See, as many strategic partners, it is fine, because that is the beauty of the idea of strategic partnership. It gives you flexibility in the present age of increased and complex interdependence. You have to have strategic partnerships which are very, very contextual. For example, we can work closely with, even with China on climate change, or in case of certain reforms at WTO, we can work closely with US to maintain free and open Indo-Pacific. So it is always an issue based, and we cannot restrict. It depends upon the different interest we have.
Specific aspects of US-China relationship.
A specific aspect of US-China relationship is, it is a complex interdependence, because they are economically interdependent. They have certain common interest. For example, with respect to North Korea, it should not end up becoming a failed state, but at the same time, China challenging US hegemony, that put them against each other also.
In UK's Rwanda's bill.
UK's Rwanda bill is something very, very controversial, because see, it allows UK to divert the flow of the asylum seekers from UK towards the other country, because immigration has become a sensitive issue in all European countries, and there is a rise of ultra nationalist neo-fascist parties, and it's a real issue, it's a significant issue. So it is UK's attempt to find a way out for their country, what is best for them, and that is why they are looking for shifting the asylum, so that UK want that coming to UK through English Channel or through dangerous routes should be avoided, because countries may the persons may think it is dangerous, they have to be shifted towards Rwanda. And again, thing is, because UK Supreme Court has questioned that policy, so this draft will be introducing certain terms and conditions on Rwanda with respect to safety and security of the asylum seekers. So looking from point of view of UK trying to protect its national interest, sometimes you have to make the hard choices. And we can also say that if we talk about Rohingyas, fine, we do not have enough space to accommodate, and we will also try to find out. I can compare it with India's helping Bangladesh in monetary terms for accommodating Rohingyas. Though there is a difference is that India is not a member of international conventions on refugees, but UK has, so UK's commitments are stronger, bigger.
And what is India's view on one country, two systems in China?
So we have accepted that one country, two system, and I don't think we have any problem with that. Rather, India will prefer if China becomes democracy completely. What's the harm? That will be the best case scenario for us.
And why US didn't impose sanctions CATSA or India despite India's purchase of S-400 missile defense system from Russia?
US did not impose sanctions under CATSA because today India has emerged as a very important, significant swing state for US, and US's dependency on India in context of rise of China has increased a lot. So India is a exception case, and India has got exception not just in CATSA, India got exception in civil nuclear agreement also. That itself shows that how strategic India has become in their security calculations, and we deserve all these exceptions.
Vision for next 10 years in global order?
Vision for next 10 years in global order is, I want, first of all, the global order that is conducive for the growth of growth of global South. It means which allows global South to meet the sustainable development goals. For that, there should be stability, there should be strong multilateralism, there should be reformation of the institutions of global governance, which are made more representative, transparent, and accountable, and ultimately the resolution of the geopolitical conflicts through the peaceful manner. And finally, India's vision, Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas.
Ma'am, how is Pakistan's civil and military authority interlinked?
They are interlinked in the sense that military is seen as Pakistan's deep state, and civilian is just a face. And it is basically, since very beginning, Pakistan could never sustain democracy. Pakistan has continuously been ruled by Pakistan's army. Sometimes army rules directly, sometimes army rule through its puppet regime. So it is as good as the civilian government of Pakistan. It is more like a puppet regime.
And positives and negatives of Indian Army personnel staying in Maldives?
Positive is that Indian Army personnel staying there in Maldives means we are keeping watch, we are safeguarding our interest in the Indian Ocean region. And leaving Maldives is obviously may harm our interest, our capacity to keep to be present, to respond in the earliest situations. But I believe that if Indian forces are not there in Maldives, it is not just going against India's interest, it also goes against Maldives' own interest, because you don't know, there are different type of humanitarian and natural disasters possible, and India, because of the logic of geography, is obviously the first responder in the region in case of humanitarian and disaster relief. And I don't think that China can be a substitute for India in the region.
India's neighbors are going to poll. How is this important for India?
India's neighbors are going to poll, you call it this year as the election year. So it is important because whenever democracy comes, we know that in democracy, so many narratives, anti-India narratives are built, and governments, they want, in order to like the competitive political parties, in order to attract, they may play anti-India card, they may play the nationalist card, and there is a lot of scope of involvement of China in these elections. So we have to see that whosoever comes to power, they should not have a very strong anti-India orientation. As far as our formal policy is concerned, we should not be interfering in the domestic affairs of our neighbors, and we should be hopeful. And I believe that right now we are in the position, whosoever comes to power, we will be able to manage, because in the past few years, India has taken a lot of initiatives. India's stature has also changed as a country. So nothing to fear. We will manage it.
How recently held G20 is different from previous ones?
G20 is different from previous ones in terms of the agenda. The most distinctive aspect is G20 becoming the voice of Global South, because up till now G20 is just a platform for the elite countries or the emerging states in the in international economy, but making African Union means G20 is trying to make the process of globalization inclusive, and also the agendas like climate change and commitment, that it's not only about economy, we have ensured that it has to be also sustainable development.
And now some questions on Indian polity.
Okay.
Do we need a governor?
Of course, we need a governor, because at the state level, we have a parliamentary form of government, and in a parliamentary form of government, there has to be two heads.
Okay. Judiciary is not held accountable with respect to its appointments. What are your thoughts?
It is wrong to say that judiciary is not held accountable with respect to its appointment. Judiciary has actually established the independence of judiciary, professionalism in terms of the collegiate system, and the collegiate system brings judiciary, actually take judiciary towards a freer up direction than the executive's interference. But of course, we require a system which is more transparent, more accountable, but it cannot be a system where, in the name of ensuring transparency and accountability, we are compromising with the independence of judiciary, because that will be something very, very undesirable.
How to justify existing press freedom in India when the rank is sliding down in most of the global indexes?
See, the global indexes and their reliability is also questionable, and it is again, like, it is very subjective in terms of parameter, and you will never have an ideal situation. And presently, if you see that every country is going through a difficult phase where the opposite or the adversarial and enemy countries, they often use mass media as an instrument of their propaganda, as we have seen in US elections. So at times, in the interest of a nation, we have to take certain hard measures, but we can't help it. We don't want to have the restrictions, but we do not have an option, because obviously we cannot take any casual approach with India's security, and we know that how strongly China is entering into the propaganda war. So obviously, for national interest, these steps have to be taken.
Ma'am, views on one nation, one election?
One nation, one election, I think there is no problem, because India is a poor country, and consistently having an election every day and all these things do create a problem, and we are not averse to the idea of one nation, one election. It is already being implemented at the level of Panchayati Raj, where all panchayats and municipalities, they have to be constituted at one time, and if any panchayat gets dissolved within a 6 months, then either you reconstitute a panchayat. So why not we can look at the constitutional angle of it, and we can, and I don't think that we should say that it may impact the choices of the voters in regional elections. I believe Indian voters are smart enough, and they have made a segregation. For example, if I talk about Delhi elections, the voters voted for AAP in the assembly, and they voted for BJP in the parliament election. So with the increasing maturity of our voters, I think we can go for simultaneous election, because we have to see the cost and benefit analysis in terms of the amount that is there in holding the elections. And because forever elections keep on happening, there are obvious concerns with respect to model code of conduct, which may prevent the declaration, etc., of the new policies. So maybe with little more debate and understanding more pros and cons seriously, we can think of it.
Ma'am, can education minister be uneducated? If yes, can we do quo warranto in it?
First of all, education minister, uneducated and quo warranto. Quo warranto is not against political dignitaries. It is only for the permanent offices. Now, education minister can be uneducated in formal terms, because education should not be seen in terms of degree. You learn education from the book of life. Anyone can be a man of ideas. There are people, even if I say Akbar was not literate, but Akbar was educated, and Akbar has been one of the finest rulers we had. So there is no problem. And another thing is, ultimately the political class gives this vision, but the fine details of the policies are always with the civil servants who are experienced in their department. So we can always fill the gap.
And now last 5 questions. Benefits of 6th schedule status to Ladakh. Why there is so much push?
6th schedule gives you greater autonomy in terms of administration, and because Ladakh is a tribal dominated areas, and within Ladakh there are, I think, three different two constituencies, Kargil and Ladakh. So because 6th schedule give you greater autonomy, and you can practice your customary practices. It is like giving more autonomy on the resources also. So that is the reason behind the demand.
Our External Affairs Minister said that our government follows Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's realism and not Nehru's idealism. What is your take, and when do you see this turn?
See, Sardar Patel's realism, I can say that from 90s onwards. Even in case of Indira Gandhi, we can say that Indira Gandhi's decision to go for 1971 treaty show the realism and coming out of India's idealism, in the sense going all alone and not at all looking for the military aspect of India's security.
Ma'am, where do you think Nehru was romantic or idealist?
Romanticism means living an imagination. So I don't see, but at times it is said that Nehru's China policy was filled with romanticism. This was very, very imaginative, that India, China can be bhai bhai. And as far as idealism is concerned, looking for peace, Nehru's commitment towards international peace, towards strengthening United Nations can be categorized under that.
I'm stronger PM or a better leader in Modi and Prime Minister Modi and Indira Gandhi?
A stronger PM and a better leader between Prime Minister Modi and Indira Gandhi, I will say that we should not be making a comparison because times are different. That time was different and this time is different. Both have established themselves as the leader, as well as in both internal and external sphere. Even Indira Gandhi had the global appeal, and in domestic also. So what is basically difference is a difference of time.
And ma'am, if we consider Jawaharlal Nehru and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel,
Who is a
leader.
better leader?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, Jawaharlal Nehru, because leader has to be a visionary. So, Pandit Nehru was a visionary. He laid the foundation of many things in the country, and I think the biggest legacy of Pandit Nehru has been democracy. India is having a democracy to large extent. The credit goes to Pandit Nehru. And Sardar Patel himself never considered as a leader. He used to consider himself as a follower of Gandhi, and each one is a leader in their own right. But the canvas and the vision, which is also a characteristic of a leadership, I think Nehru was having more credit to his side.
And now the last question: why bureaucracy is called the steel frame of India?
Bureaucracy is called the steel frame. Steel frame means which keeps the things intact. So how India remained intact? Because we had the strong bureaucracy, and that is why we could manage the rough tides of communal violence at that point of time. And time and again, because law and order is a very important concern for any post-colonial state with internal security and other issues. So in that way, it has acted as a steel frame. And today, if India has emerged as a one nation, and we could have prevented further partitions, if the credit goes to large extent to bureaucracy, and besides also in terms of policy formulation from developmental angle also, because bureaucracy has been one of the most educated and modern institutions in India in comparison to parliament, etc. If you see in terms of qualification and qualification, expertise, experience, in that way it has acted as a steel frame, but primarily in terms of law and order.